Hello everyone, thanks very much for coming along to this final session of MIPCOM. Some of you may have been to this last session of MIPCOM before. We've changed the format a bit. We've called it Trending Topics because we've tried to resume the biggest trends of MIPCOM and MIP Junior as we've seen them on social media. So to discuss them here, we've got a panel of experts. I'll be moderating the session. I'm James Martin. I'm MIP Markets Head of Social Media. So right here we have Sandra from the Project Factory. Welcome, Sandra. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Bonjour.
So could you just introduce yourself quickly? What do you do for Project Factory?
Yeah, I'm the commercial manager for the Project Factory, which is a digital production company based in the UK and Australia. And we produce apps, interactive websites for TV shows and movies, and do social media management for shows such as Downton Abbey, Release the Hounds, and we recently released an app for the BBC series Sherlock, which was #1 in 37 countries. We just released a Chinese version of it as well. So that's what we do.
Great. Thanks for coming. Ali.
Hello. I think more importantly than introducing myself, I must say I'm very proud of you. I thought you all will be drinking champagne this afternoon before leaving, but thank you very much for being here. I'm Ali May, I'm a TV presenter, and I have just started my content production company in London called Mayhart. And this is my first MIP.
And you moderated a Lego keynote, didn't you?
Yes, I interviewed Jill Wilford, who's the Vice President for licensing of Lego, the lady pretty much behind the Lego movie, and that was really good fun.
Great. Jocelyn.
I second Ali's remarks about you guys attending our panel. Thanks so much for being here. So I'm Jocelyn Johnson. I'm the founder of VideoInk. We are a publication that covers what's happening in the online video OTT space. So there was a lot of really interesting news that was coming out of this particular MIP in that category. So we're like a variety or a deadline for the online video space. If you're ever looking to track what's happening in digital entertainment, we're your destination for that.
Thank you very much. Before we get on to the actual trends, I was just wondering if each of you had one big standout moment this market, and if you could tell us a bit about it.
It was the first time that I actually had time to go to all the keynotes and see all the big stars like Ted Sarandos, and I was actually really impressed by Simon Cowell. I sat second row, was very close, and I was very surprised how honest he was, and he seemed very likable and approachable, and that was my highlight, to see him in person.
Because he has a bit of a persona as a baddie on his own.
Exactly,
shows.
exactly. I just had a completely different impression seeing him here than on TV.
Mm-hmm. And it was interesting that he's looking to move into animation. That was the thing that stood out for me. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
What about you, Ali?
Well, I learned that there's a big term going here as a MIP version, which I was one of them until I came here. And for me, seeing all this, on the first day, I basically went to 4 or 5 keynotes, and I have learned so much. It's really, and I'm saying this really honestly and humbly, it's really hard for me to pick just one thing, because the whole experience has been really incredible. And meeting some of you guys who, are great in doing what you do, so yeah.
The whole thing then?
The whole thing. Fantastic. I've drank the Kool-Aid.
What about you, Jocelyn?
This is my first MIP as well, and I unfortunately missed a portion of it. But I would say highlights for me have been a lot of the over-the-top streaming news that's come out. I mean, the week opened up strong with Starz announcing they were going to be expanding internationally with an over-the-top service. There's been a lot coming from Netflix, Maker Studios. A lot of the digital companies are starting to really disrupt the broadcast space. So I think that's probably the most exciting thing for me.
Great. We'll get on to Netflix in particular later. So just to explain what we're going to do now, we have been across the whole internet and looked at the trending topics on Twitter. So that means which are the keywords, the hashtags that have been coming up the most since Saturday when MIP Junior started. and which tweets have been getting the most retweets. And also another thing we looked at, because we've been covering a lot of the conferences on our blog, MIP blog, we've been looking at which conferences have been getting the most shares online, which sessions people have been the most interested in. And we've got that down into 5 different sections. The first one is Mexico. Seems an obvious one. It's the country of honor. There was lots of chat and buzz about Mexico. But what were people saying? They were saying the hashtag. This is the official hashtag of Pro Mexico, who was our partner for Mexico Country of Honor. And you said it better than me.
Televisión?
Yes. I didn't even know you could do hashtags with accents, but there you go. Great to see that that there's this really strong movement of Mexican TV happening here. What about in terms of actual content, Sandra? Was there anything that stood out for you?
I have to admit I'm a big telenovela fan, so I love telenovelas from Latin America, and I went to Fresh TV to see their picks on Mexican TV. And for me, I learned a new term. It's called narco telenovelas or narco novelas. And apparently it's all about drugs, thugs, and divas. So it's about women that either lose their husbands who are drug dealers and then have to take over the business, or fall in love with a drug dealer. And I think Virginia was saying it's all about money, beauty, and power.
Mm. So it's quite different from what we're used to in the West.
Yeah, I think also like from Argentina, or Brazilian telenovelas are very different to Mexican.
There was there was plenty of to talk about in terms of content, in terms of sort of pure social media. There was some great stuff with thanks to someone who is just here. He's taking a photo right now. If you want to follow him on Twitter and go and see what we're talking about, it's Alberdou, isn't it? Alberdou, and so you were going around the market taking selfies and then photoshopping an actor's face on top of certain people, and each one was getting hundreds of retweets. Yeah. What was all that about?
We ask a well-known personality in Mexico to put his face in different people here. So he retweeted that all the tweets and the photos that we upload, and
that's because he was retweeting about. Okay, great.
And yeah, I'm actually looking at some of them. It's funny. Basically, what they did, they put a mask of Brandon Metza on their face, and they took a selfie with it. And I'm just looking at 4 of them: 558 retweets, 814 retweets, 516 retweets. And what they've done is really funny. They have one is in the Grand Auditorium, one is just outside Caja, Mexico. One is the train station or something. So yeah, well done. It was really ingenious.
Thanks very much for that. We really appreciate if all those retweets mean people are seeing Mexico at MIPCOM, and it's creating a buzz all over the world, so that's fantastic. We also we were tweeted in the most retweeted tweets. We had a tweet from the presidency of Mexico, which has 1.2 million followers. It's nice to have to be retweeted by a country. But yeah, it was all sort of really positive vibe, and that was, we could see that in Cannes in real life and online. So we were really happy about that. The next trend that I wanted to get onto, kids TV. Now, as you know, there's MIPCOM, but this weekend we started off with MIP Junior, which is our kids TV event. what really surprised me is that it wasn't surprising that MIP Junior came out as one of the top trending topics. What did surprise us a lot is that of the top 10 most retweeted, most shared posts of all our coverage on MIP blog, 4 of them were about MIP Junior. If you consider that MIP Junior gets about 1,300 people and MIPCOM gets 13,000, that's incredible level of interest. The #1 post was about the international pitch, which is for cross-platform projects for kids. Thunderbirds did very well in there as well, which shows there is life in sort of getting old favorites and rejuvenating them. I wanted us to talk about the innovation aspect, though. To do with the international pitch. What's the panel seeing in terms of interesting trends for kids and youth related content? Jocelyn.
Yeah, I'll chime in on that first. So I think what we've been seeing on the digital side of things is there's definitely a surge of interest for kids programming, and kids programming that specifically is tying the family together as a whole. And we were kind of pre-chatting what would be the cause of that. And I think it's because a lot of broadcasters and digital and brands in general are looking to try and lock down this younger generation. Kids are becoming more active on mobile platforms, on streaming platforms, and so I think that's why we're seeing a lot more kids programming that integrates the family on that side of things. So I wouldn't be surprised that, kids programming has always been strong, so don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that now it's stronger than before, but I just think that we're seeing a surge in appetite for new formats that are reaching kids on mobile and on streaming devices. So.
And maybe there's a point to be made that, in the past few years we've seen lots and lots of fantastic stuff for adults with the rise of Netflix, House of Cards and stuff like that. And maybe now we can see a little bit of gap for high quality programming for kids. And now maybe that's why we see that large appetite for it.
I know I keep bringing it back to this, but if you look at some of the digital platforms that have been investing in content and kind of what their strategy has started with, Amazon, Netflix, both made kids programming their second choice right after the big dramas. So Amazon was really active in integrating the family and reviewing and choosing what those pilots were going to be specifically targeted at kids. So I think that's symptomatic too of what you're saying. There's a hole to be filled.
There was a lot of talk as well, and maybe Sandra, you can comment on this, about the fact that for kids, second screen, first screen makes no difference. They don't care where they're watching TV. If what they want to see is on YouTube, they'll go for it. Doesn't matter.
I don't think they make a difference. Like, they don't realize that it's TV or on a tablet. They just watch it wherever. And I think they also really like to interact with the characters. What I liked was the Dream Job, where you can customize it by, I think, via an app. So you upload a picture of your parents as a child, not me. And then you can have a series that includes your parents.
That got a special mention from the jury, yeah. So it was sort of.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah, so just explain the concept a bit more for us, for those who missed it. It's you put photos of. Yeah,
I think there's an app with it where you can upload a picture, and then it integrates the picture into the series. I mean, it's just a couple of minutes. And
then you can imagine yourself doing any job.
Exactly. Yeah.
That you can think of. Yeah, it's something fun. And it's not necessarily. Is it a game? Is it a show?
Yeah, and it makes it so much personal. Like if you could be in a show with your parents,
Yeah, yeah. When they did the demo on stage, they put the moderator straight into the game, which is a fun thing. What about you, Ali?
No, I think I just wanted to comment a little on the fact that our generation, we were used to 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock. If we miss it, we miss it. Simple as that. But for the kids of this generation, that is not even a concept because they don't know what that means. Or that whole argument about the second screen. Which is the second screen? Or is the small one, the mobile now, the first screen? Because it's always with us. It's, we consume as we basically go.
What about, Ali, things like getting classic properties like Thunderbirds and bringing them back to life. What do you think of that? Do you think that's there's only so far that can go, or do you think as long as they're bringing something new, it's worth it?
It's not an easy question to answer, but I think there's a scope for bringing it back in the traditional forms that we are all familiar with. But I'm thinking, and maybe looking at my crystal ball, that maybe in the future there will be elements like that you will be able to get involved and interact with those old properties, those traditional properties. Maybe you will become the story, you will become the character in some way. I'm guessing, yes, after a while, after milking a cow for a long time, it will dry out, so you will need to find a solution, you know.
But I actually know a lot of grown-ups who are really excited to have the Thunderbirds back. So I think it works. If technology advances, then you can.
And if it
make
brings
it
something
better,
new to the
Same thing. Just one last point is that tying back to what Ali was saying is that, and tying back to this reviving of old properties, is that's why a lot of the legacy big studios are investing in companies like Maker Studios, like Awesomeness TV, and then repurposing their IP or trying to bring their IP back to life with a younger generation that can resonate and kind of replicate the Frozen effect, right? So if Maker Studios can help bring R2-D2 relevant for my kids, which I don't have kids yet, just FYI, but for my future children, then I think that is a huge win for them, because otherwise they can't just keep squeezing an old IP in that capacity. But if they can bring it back to life, that's a huge value.
And I think just from what she says, you can all see that the panel here is extremely forward-thinking and forward-looking.
My unborn children.
There was Star Wars Rebels as well at MIP Junior, which is another example of something that's rejuvenating something that's been around for a while that went down really well too. So we'll keep an eye on that. Getting on to the next trend. This is a huge one. The golden age of TV was actually MIPCOM 2013's big theme, but it's definitely been very present this year too. With these sort of three hashtags in particular. So we've been talking about the golden age of TV for a while now, but the difference with this MIPCOM we saw was that showrunners, stars, and VOD platforms like Netflix all agree that, I put it here, TV is the new black, as in M. Night Shyamalan said, for example, that TV is the place to make content that resonates, whereas the cinema, for him, is just becoming more and more about money. Just wondered what the panel thinks of that.
Well, I think that what's interesting is that you used to have these big blockbuster moments in the theater environment, and you're not getting that anymore. Shows like Breaking Bad, and even recently with Sleepy Hollow Season 2, you're seeing those becoming the big events, and commentary shows happening afterwards, and people actually driving conversation both on social media and in real life around these shows that kind of feel like feature films, or like 3 feature films stitched together, whether you watch them episodically or whether you watch them all straight through in binge watching. So I think that's probably the biggest differentiator right now.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about the golden age, is that we have been seeing now extremely high quality in television. So I think that whole thing that, people say, oh no, I don't watch TV, or I only work in cinema or theater, I think that's completely going away. Now you have these new genres of fantastic high quality stuff that you see coming up on TV, and then all the new platforms. I'm not going to talk much about Netflix now because we're going to get into that, but yeah, I think quality essentially for me is the top thing.
Why do you think that shift is happening?
I think partly because of technology. Technology is moving forward. We are moving forward with that. New platforms. And when you have new platforms, when you have competition, you have to innovate. You have to make your products better and better. So if you are Netflix, if you are a VOD platform, you need to bring something that will steal people from their normal TV slots. So what you do, you innovate and make better programs.
So quality is the only way to stand out.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it also comes down to user behavior and the way that viewing habits have evolved. I don't think that people are, I mean, this is not a new concept that appointment viewing is dead. That's why VOD is a trending hashtag, because VOD is the only way to go right now. You have to make everything available for instant access across any platform or multiple platforms. But I think that just the culture of where we're at as people is not to go into theatrical viewing environments anymore. If you're going to do that, you want to do it from the convenience of your home, where you can get up and microwave your dinner or grab a popcorn from the microwave and watch it with your kids, and have a more intimate viewing experience rather than going to a large scale theater and paying a premium price point to get that experience.
So cinema is dead then?
It's alive. I just think it's alive on different screens and not in the actual theater. I think it's just alive in like a VOD format.
And maybe another point, which is not exactly about this, but very relevant. For instance, in the UK, you have to pay £145 a year TV license. But now, there has been a lot of debate about decriminalization of that, because you can be prosecuted if you don't pay that and watch TV. Now, there's a lot of debate within consumers saying, but hang on, I can pay £6 a month and get Netflix and all its fantastic products. So how are you going to convince me that I should pay that premium? So I think this whole, the new platforms and the new developments are really shifting the way we thought about television and about entertainment.
Yeah, it's a bit like music, isn't it? Why should I pay 15 euros for a CD when I can,
Hopefully it doesn't go that way, though.
Sandra?
I just noticed, maybe I'm wrong, but I noticed that a lot of drama producers, especially in Europe, seem to work together now. So, we had The Bridge and we had The Tunnel, where different countries produce drama series together. And now I saw The Team, which involves, I think like 10 European countries, from France, Germany, Switzerland, Netherlands, Belgium.
And The Missing as well, which is Franco-British.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the budget gets bigger and the audience gets bigger, and I think the storytelling also improves. And also Ted Sarandos was saying that Netflix, they always, I think Steve from Sony said it as well, that they all think globally now. They're all global producers. And I think that improves the quality.
They're not just focused on the US market. Exactly. That reminds me of a great comment from Anne Sweeney. She said that she was, without MIP, she would only invest in US content, which I thought was really interesting. Just staying on the topic of shows, these are two of the shows that stood out the most in terms of hashtags. Kingdom, because of Nick Jonas, who we'll get onto, and Schitt's Creek. No, I wasn't expecting this one. Have you heard of Schitt's Creek? Anyone? It's ITV comedy show that they brought the stars here, and it's just a quirky comedy. We were wondering if the hashtag came up because it sounds funny. But it's also what might have helped is that the ITV created a GIF Tumblr to promote the show whilst they were down here. So maybe that helped. Were there any other shows in particular that stood out for you? You've mentioned a few.
Yeah, I think Wayne Ward Pines as well with Matt Dillon.
Wayne Ward Pines, yeah. Mm-hmm. It looks like a sort of a bit of a Twin Peaks. That's the Shyamalan project. Could be fun. Ali, no, you liked everything, didn't you?
To be honest, I didn't get the chance to look at the screening, so I was more interested in what people were saying. So,
okay,
sorry.
And I personally think that Schitt's Creek was just really interesting for everyone to get active on tweeting. So, I would be interested to read some of the tweets and see if they were about the show or if they were just people wanting to use the word.
We'll see. Nick Jonas, put him in here because he was here for his show Kingdom, and he got 1,460 retweets just from 2 tweets about being here. So again, it's like our friends from Mexico. Thank you very much for that, Nick. You can come back whenever you like. It just shows that the how important the social media aspect is. All of the shows, if you have a star in your show and he's tweeting about it, it can make a huge difference in terms of...
I think you have to have a social media savvy star in it. I think Nick Jonas is very social media savvy and has a big following.
They have to know what they're doing.
Yeah, also I was, I alluded to this earlier about the element of having the conversation that's generated around these big TV moments. But I think, you know, what's interesting about having a Nick Jonas that's being active on social media, or having someone like Orlando Jones, who recently just did a live tweet, live Vine, live blogging activation around the Sleepy Hollow season 2 premiere, is that you're actively like engaging this conversation. I think we're going to get to that a little bit too with with the Twitter trend coming up. But I think that that's really important, is to have like an active social strategy that is a way of live tweeting or live interacting with fans, but also around the programming.
Okay, we'll get to that later, but it's it seems to be becoming a bit of a expected. It's just a huge bonus for a show if your star is active on social media. Scripted. This was a keyword we picked out because the golden age of TV is great. I don't know if anyone here has got the impression that lately that there are so many good series. How on earth are we going to watch them all? Where are we going to find the time? There was a Variety article about that just before we came down. It's everyone wants to have their Breaking Bad, their House of Cards. Does the panel think we might reach a sort of saturation point at some point?
I think we have reached that point in some ways, because and again, because I'm a first time MIPper. I don't know this, but I've been talking to people, and they were saying in previous MIPs you always had one series that really stood out, but now it's really hard to pinpoint that one series that really stands out because of quality. Because as you're saying, everybody has a great series. So I think we are kind of nearly there.
What do you think, Sandra?
I think it's great. I think there are so many platforms, and you can pick whatever you like. There are so many genres now. I think variety is great.
The more the merrier. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone has their own taste in drama series, and I think it just adds value to it. There are so many great series out there.
And Jocelyn, if they're on online platforms, I imagine that if they're out there, they'll get found. Is it that easy?
I think it's a very complicated marketplace right now, just in terms of the linear scripted versus digital, various formats actually across the space, just because there is too much content. And I also think that when there are so many different formats that are coming out from so many different broadcasters internationally on a global scale, it's going to be really difficult for some of those to bubble up. But what I do think is an opportunity is that some of the digital platforms give way for discovery on a longer tail. So you may not have a show that's like Breaking Bad that didn't have a big marketing budget, that didn't have that immediate spike, but maybe down the line somebody's browsing through whatever platform or through their VOD and discovers a show and may actually just generate an underground cult following. So pros and cons.
And I think it's kind of makes it really difficult for those who want to create these shows, because when you've got all of those shows, all of those genres, all great quality, so what next? What do we make next? I think there's that element to it as well.
I'm speaking more from an audience perspective here. And I think for me it's great to have all these amazing shows I can choose from. And
how do you find them?
Well, I usually watch most series on Netflix, and there's this great tool where it suggests you new shows that you might like if you like this show, and that's how I discover it. I think that's the user interface we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we can get on to that.
They also have another really neat trick, because I'd cancelled my subscription a few months ago, and then I had an email 2 days ago from Netflix saying, Ali, come back, Bridge Season 2 is out now. So, okay.
And I think it's also social recommendations. If my friends are talking about a show, I would be likely to watch it too.
I completely agree. And I just think that from a programming perspective, if you're a broadcaster that's trying to program against that type of discovery element, it makes it really hard. It makes it really hard on an international market as well for the people who are coming here with ideas to pitch, to actually have a sentiment of whether that's going to take off in a long term or a short term, when it could be by chance Netflix saw that you watched an animated Disney show and now wants to suggest a new family-friendly kids TV show to you, right? It's kind of like a shot in the dark from that perspective. Yes, great to have lots of content, but tough.
Can I ask you a question? How do you feel about the fact there is murder in virtually every drama? How do you feel about the fact there is murder and lots of female mutilation in every drama on television at the moment? Do you think it is numbing the audience? I mean, this time it was absolutely unbelievable how much there was. And in fact, in Britain, there's been a bit of a movement from female actresses saying they don't want to play these roles. I mean, I find it absolutely disgusting. It's so titillating, you know, and it came from some of the Nordic dramas started, you know, that very fine line between, you know, titillation and terror. And I don't know if people feel badly about it. I feel really badly about it. And when we watched the Wits selection, there was literally a murder in every single drama, and a very visceral, revolting one. I don't know if you feel about that. That's what I've picked up from the dramas.
Maybe it's a way to stand out from all this.
I think
content.
it also placates into cultural. I mean, when you're programming for an 18 to 34 male demographic, that's probably heavy gamer, that's probably a heavy spender, that probably is your core target audience that you know has an ability to get really sucked into something and then become a cult follower. You're going to program to the Doom shooters and the World of Warcraft players, and you're going to program that way. And it's, I mean, the trolling community on there is really tough. But when you're programming for the popular audience or for the most like rabid fan base, that's unfortunately the route that I think that the people are going to try and placate to that audience.
Stephen Moffat, sorry.
We may have opened up a whole conversation that we'll have to do separate.
Sherlock and
Doctor Who.
He said that you don't wait for the audience to tell you what they want. You, as the program maker, make what you feel is right. He said the fact that you don't actually know what to give your husband as a present, how would you possibly know what members of the public know?
That was one of the best quotes of the market, I think.
Yeah, and I really feel that it's the program maker's responsibility not to take us down that route.
I agree with you.
How you feel?
Beyond my point that maybe some producers feel that they've got to shock to stand out.
Every producer.
Yeah, but I suppose the flip side of that is with all these new platforms out there, there's room for everyone. There are niches everywhere, and niche content can stand out more. Hopefully, once these platforms are better established, there'll be something for everyone, and not necessarily and less of the shock stuff. Who knows?
I do think those programs are out there. I just think that maybe they're receiving less marketing dollars and marketing focus to be promoted. But I do think, like what we were talking about earlier, those programs do exist, the more family friendly or the, you know, not so, I guess, violent programming.
They don't have to show, you know, 1 minute you're watching what's happening in Syria, the next minute you're watching something which is even worse. And I mean, I think that it's brutalizing the audience. If you watch that continually, disagree. I really think it brutalizes them.
We don't disagree. I would just like to think that the more choice there is, the better, and that you don't have to watch that sort of thing.
Talking about trends, which we are.
Okay. Can we save questions for the end? Is that okay? So scripted, we're on scripted, and then yes, next trend. Digital.
I won't say a word, I promise.
Digital is a big trend. It almost didn't need to show this slide here because we've been talking about Netflix so much for the past half hour. Have we still got anything left to say about Netflix? I don't know. what stood out for me was that the Ted Sarandos keynote was the most attended conference here. Had over 1,000 people watching it here in the Palais, and was our most shared conference report from MIPblog. Why do you think that is, Sandra? Why do you think there's so much interest in Netflix, or have we already answered that question?
I think Netflix is just very interesting at the moment. They just launched in Germany and France, so I think a lot of MIPCOM goers wanted to know how it's going there.
They just released their earnings, which were a bit down. Is that just do we think that's a glitch, or do we think that's something to worry about?
We talked about this a little bit earlier. That's why Ali gave me the definitive, this is your cue look. So I was actually just making note that despite the fact that Netflix's earnings were down, I think that a likely cause of that is this is the first quarter that they haven't had a big original that they've been marketing very heavily. So House of Cards earlier in the year, followed by Orange is the New Black. I think those are huge drivers of new subscription acquisition. They said in their earnings report that it was because they think the price point is off. They just did a price increase. But I would probably say that it's because they didn't have a huge original that they're marketing the hell out of.
Well, I have a little juicy anecdote for you. I'm backstage, and Ted has finished, and he comes out, and then his Inquisitor comes out. And then I told him, you were really pushing it, weren't you? And this man, I'm not going to name any names, he runs one of the big departments of a French television channel. I said, of course I was pushing. They're trying to kill us. So I think, but I mean, this might be a little jokey, but there is a big truth in that. I think broadcasters are really scared of the new platform. They're scared of the new innovations, and they're just trying to sort of figure out in their big bureaucracy, so how are we going to really do this? You know, if you're at the BBC, yes, you can come bring out Sherlock and, you know, all that. But if you're slightly smaller, what's the solution for me? Or is Netflix going to kill me?
Are they that scared though? I mean, we just learned yesterday as well that HBO, after resisting for years, is going to release their own sort of Netflix-like service. Isn't it all just going to get a lot more competitive in that space?
I think
it is like, you know, it is like I think this resistance to change, to innovation, is a very natural human thing. Like all the cabbies in Paris were fuming when Uber started. But, you know, in London now everybody uses Uber, and the cabbies don't protest anymore.
I thought there was protests in London as well about that.
Yeah, they did. It was a year ago, but now not anymore. So what I'm trying to say is, okay, you're going to resist. Either you will find your own solution, or you will have no other way but to jump on the same wagon and share, you know, whatever is out there.
Look at Netflix's library of syndication. How many top performing movies do you see on Netflix still? You don't. They're yanking all of their syndication off. So I think that's a huge symptom that they're recognizing that Netflix could be cannibalizing their business. And so what they're doing is they're taking the rights back for all of their IP with the intention that eventually they'll launch their own OTT service. AMC is going to be doing this soon with Sundance One. We just heard, you know, or I think this week, maybe from here actually, that you know, there's going to be Cartoon Network and Adult Swim that are probably going to be launching international OTT services. So I think they're all going to start doing that, launching their own over-the-top streaming and trying to figure out the right price point. I fundamentally think it's the wrong move, but which I can talk offline about. But yeah.
But it's interesting if you think it's the wrong move.
Yeah, I just think that I think that they're going to end up cannibalizing their own, ultimately cannibalizing the cable business by moving over the top in this way and reinforcing an a la carte cultural mentality, because the price points for that digitally just don't match what the price points they're getting for bundling are. So I think it's just going to be problematic and create even more segmentation in the market.
That's often the way with it when there's industry disruption, whatever comes next. Oh, we're not making as much money out of this new system. We'll see. So the other big digital trend we wanted to talk to you about was Twitter. So this was the hashtag that Twitter made for their session, which was here on Monday. Huge buzz on Twitter naturally about the session. It was in our trending topics, and we got at our own account we got loads of retweets about this session, just because it was such a dense session on how to be more social on TV. One thing that stood out for me was how Fred Graver, the main speaker, said that Twitter doubles the emotional connection to TV, and they showed a graph. This is you watching TV without Twitter, and this is you watching TV with Twitter. I wondered how they measure emotion, but that, of course, it's something we all want to believe, isn't it? Don't you think, Sandra?
I think, okay, I try to analyze it, what he meant. I think it's, he was also talking that, you know, if the actors or the cast members, if they contribute to Twitter, you know, he said 90% of people seeing tweets on Twitter took action afterwards, so that means they tuned into a TV show or they started tweeting as well. And I think you get an emotional connection to the show, you know, if you have the
when you're
actors,
interacting
exactly,
with it. Yeah.
or talking to, you know, people on Twitter or your friends on Twitter, and I think that's the emotional connection that he made. I think it's the emotional connection with the TV show.
What do you think, Ali? Do you tweet whilst you're watching TV, or do you put your phone down?
I do tweet if I watch TV. Especially, my guilty pleasure is The Voice UK, so I do tweet. So.
Do you feel more emotionally connected to The Voice, Ali, when you're tweeting about it?
Look, that chart I give you, that chart was the only weak point of the Twitter keynote. The rest was fantastic. I learned so much, but. In some ways, I can get what they're talking about. You know, when there are 3 people left and one of them is going to become the Voice UK, I don't know, you think you are lending your support to them when you're tweeting. And it doesn't make much difference. But
and in the States, they actually have #VoiceSaveUS, where you can save someone.
Yeah, you can vote with the hashtag, yeah. There's also almost linked is another trend that came up in MIPTV and I heard about again here, which is now it seems like every show has to have an app like Rising Star, so that people can go one step further in terms of interaction. Are you seeing that as a trend, Jocelyn?
Actually, I personally haven't noticed that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think that the way that you can get people in, capture their emails, capture even more information about them is probably through an app. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to drive people on, connect all the platforms through social.
And what about the interaction between Twitter and TV? Is that do you have to have interaction, TV and Twitter interaction built into your show, or can you do without it? Or
yeah, I think there's been some behavior. I mean, you've seen people putting hashtags on the programming and trying to encourage that, but again, this goes back to the user behavior. People want to be social and want to be connecting offline and online. And with Twitter being this sort of global water cooler, I feel like that's their voice. Like instead of doing that at work, they're doing that digitally with everybody around the world and feeling a sense of community around the programming.
And you know, but when it comes to The Voice and X Factor and all the reality stuff, it's a very natural relationship between Twitter and that program. But I think what is really interesting and what Twitter has managed to pull off is including that in drama. One of the greatest examples is probably the stars of House of Cards. There's the official House of Cards handle that is just golden. It's fantastic. You should just see it. And then there's that whole all the stars coming and live tweeting. Actually, I met one of an actor of a new Netflix show that will come out soon, and she was telling me that she's the only one actually in the cast and crew who's media savvy, Twitter savvy. And she was thinking, so what do we do? How do we do this? Scandal is doing this, House of Cards is doing that. How are we going to do this? Because I'm the only one who knows Twitter. So I think it's really interesting. Twitter has managed to pull off this thing that, okay, even if you're drama, you need to get this Twitter thing right, because this is the way you will basically interact.
Because then it becomes an event. You know, if you know that everyone is on Twitter and everyone will talk about it, you want to be part of this conversation.
Yeah, but if it's different kinds of interaction. If I'm watching The Voice, I want to tweet. If I'm watching Game of Thrones, I just want to be watching one screen and maybe tweeting afterwards. Wow, that was amazing.
Yeah, I think with drama, you don't tweet while you're watching. At least I don't. I think it would be weird to watch drama and then tweet as well. No, I think it's, as you're saying, it's the event.
Yeah, Second Sync had this research where they found out that drama, it's only in the ad breaks or when something amazing happens. But if it's an entertainment show, people are constantly tweeting about it.
I heard something that I found interesting recently about Amazon's approach to this social media and amplification and using influence to, I guess, spark their audience and spark their shows. They actually, from what I've heard, have built into their contracts that the talent cannot tweet and cannot socialize because they're watching the data so closely on how the content is being picked up on the platform that they actually don't want any social amplification to impact what the organic interest is in certain programming. So when they were doing their pilots or when they're testing out a new idea on Amazon Prime, they will integrate that into the experience, and they don't want any social to impact the data spikes. So I think that's an interesting converse approach to the TV versus Twitter.
Always or just at the beginning?
My understanding is that it's always, yeah.
It's really interesting because I wish that all the cast members would tweet for our shows because, you can see such a rise if, one of the cast members is tweeting about it.
Yeah, but I get it.
Netflix said that they built they decided to do House of Cards based on data. Yahoo was saying that they choose their programming based on data. If that's the future and we're looking at streaming and OTT, I don't know, it might be a different ballgame to see like how the data actually is tracking versus, how important I am to spike the viewership. I vote for social influence, but
of course, but if you see the sort of massive spikes that people like Nick Jonas can create in terms of conversations around a show, then maybe they don't want to set things off too much because that could it could make their stats a bit more difficult to read.
Did Lucille Ball tweet about I Love Lucy when it was first coming out? It kind of just took off, right? So maybe they're trying to retrofit that type of model. I don't know.
And by the way, are you tweeting?
Yeah, are you guys tweeting?
Are you tweeting?
What's our hashtag for this? MIPCOM, right?
Just MIPCOM.
Best conversation ever. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, do that as a hashtag and then make sure you tag us as well.
Last 12 minutes. You guys have 12 minutes to get this trending on Twitter.
Come on,
go.
12:30.
Yeah, it's last session ever of biggest MIPCOM ever. You've got 12 minutes. Go.
And actually, can I speak for you for a second? The best tweet will win a prize, and James will be in touch. I did this with
lifetime ticket to MIPCOM.
When I found a prize, you mean?
Well, we'll talk about it. No, but we did this
with
with
a night out with Ali.
Well, we did. No, I'm not sure they want me, but we did this with Lego, and it was fantastic. All the interaction.
It was brilliant that you did that, Ali, and thank you very much, live on stage in front of everyone, for doing that. It was brilliant. I wish all our moderators would do things like that. I'm going to skip the next slide actually because I want to get on to the thing we've just been talking about, social TV. It wasn't a hashtag. This is the only trending topic I want to show you that wasn't. What's happened? Why isn't hashtag social TV a hashtag anymore? What's going on? Is it just so normal for TV to be social now that you don't need to say it anymore? Or is it so last year, or what's going on? What do you think? Yes.
Oh, I think that everything is inherently social now. So social TV, social video, knock it out of there because it's all social. It's all social content. I think BuzzFeed has showed us that as well. PlayBuzz, which is a quiz app that tells you what kind of spirit animal you have. It's like all social. It's just social is everything now.
You don't use that, do you?
Just once to find out my spirit animal.
And what is it?
I'm too embarrassed to admit it. It was a deer. I don't know why.
Okay, deer. There you go. You have a nice tweet there.
Right. Yeah. Let's try that app after the panel.
I will kill you after this panel for forcing that out of me.
Right, we've got one more trend to look at, and it's the fun one. Fresh TV. I put a question mark because a lot of the shows that came out of you must all know that the biggest sessions here at MIP, well, the one biggest session is by The Wit on Monday. Virginia Mauster presents the shows that are creating the most buzz in the world right now, and the ones that she presented that created the most buzz here were these.
They're so shocking
dogs.
we can't even talk about them.
Yes, I mean the clone dogs thing stood out in particular. That was an Endemol show in which the prize at the end is a clone of your dog. Loads of people were talking about that, and even Simon Cowell said in an interview here that he would like to have a cloned dog. So I think what astounds me the most about it is that it's an idea that appeals to people.
Yeah. I was actually reading this morning that a dying man was reunited with his dog and he felt immediately better. So I think there is they're not only pets for us, aren't they? They're, our friends.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's just such a big thing that TV hasn't made the most of yet. We were at our last panel like this at MIP TV. We were talking a lot about dog TV. That's huge now. Is it really that preposterous, a show about winning a clone dog, Ali?
I don't think it's preposterous. It's just pointless. Just why would you do that? Get a life. Do something useful and interesting.
I want to know how it's shot. Is it shot in a Rescue 911 or I didn't know I was pregnant kind of way, where they're kind of recreating the scenes and going back and forth, and at the end is the big reveal of the dog that's already cloned. So
well, they go to see scientists don't they, in Korea?
I thought it was just a game show, and you have a porcelain dog, and you shouldn't break it because otherwise.
Yeah, then I don't know the point of it.
But if you win, you get to go to Korea and you meet the scientists who will clone your dog.
I just thought it was really funny because I think no one saw this one coming. And we all watched this trailer and everyone was like, oh my God, I didn't see that one coming.
And nobody will remember it going either.
The other one was Man vs. Fly, and that was interesting because it was...
Yeah, it was the first original commission of the Sun website.
Yes.
It's an online format.
And it's a guy in a box who has to
fighting
catch a fly. Yeah.
And they say man versus fly, who will survive?
Am I,
what kind of fly?
Mr. Moderator, am I allowed to use stronger language about this one? Yeah. Not too strong. Yeah. But we all have had this experience, right? You're in your bedroom and this bloody thing is running around making a noise. How is that a TV program? Seriously?
It was a TV program. It was online video for the Sun.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but still, it's almost a TV program.
That was the meanest disclaimer for my sector of the industry I've ever heard. He's like, oh, it's okay, don't worry, it wasn't really on TV, it was just online.
It wasn't
right? It was
real
just
TV.
Online?
No.
Okay.
No, but
not that bad of an idea then, because it was
all screens
online.
are equal.
I thought it was a TV show as well.
No, I'm just
and I
teasing.
thought, how are they going to make this, 30 minutes long?
What he means is, don't worry, it's the Sun. They
That's
still have a page 3 half-naked girl.
That's
the kind of content you think about. So, yeah.
And there's also celebrity pole dancing. It was at MIP TV. It was dancing. It was swimming with dolphins, and then the one before
diving.
It was celebrity diving. How low can it go? We were wondering in our team if fiction seems to be on the up and up, and maybe factual is just. I mean, how far can it go? Do you think?
I suppose you've had a lot of reality TV recently, and then you're always looking for something. And if you don't have any good ideas, you will probably try and convince the poor commissioner who doesn't have anything else to commission your rubbish. So yeah.
Or just put it online.
Someone will find it. But someone could go home and say, everyone was talking about clone dogs at MIP. Fantastic. We're talking about it.
Isn't that TV trying to copy just YouTube?
That could be a good point. Yeah, TV trying to copy YouTube. It's a sort of things going the other way around. Yeah. Who knows? But I just.
It's a flimsy idea that would make a great YouTube clip, but
Exactly. Yeah, that's what.
But you know, middle-aged TV executives think, oh, we can make a series out of that in their tragic
But
way.
don't you think if we do that, it's basically completely the opposite of what YouTube is. YouTube is very democratic, and you do short format, and then that's it. You have fun. Goodbye. But if you turn it into a series, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
But I keep
But
coming back to
middle-aged
saying
people don't
Hashtag
know
it's
that.
just wrong.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
lots of people would like a clone of their dog. That's the thing.
Yeah, sure, but why do you need to see that on TV? Just go and clone your dog.
We're not seeing it on TV, we're
CloneYourDog.com.
seeing it on
There's a business opportunity for someone in the room. We've got just under 5 minutes left. I would like to open the floor to questions. If anyone, you're done.
Another question, but a quick comment. On Ali's comment on Netflix, I don't think that Netflix will end up being that much of disruption. We've commissioned quite a few, I'm from Canada, and we've commissioned quite a few surveys on this. And 2 years ago, 83% of the Netflix subscribers were actually subscribing to one mode of distribution or other, telco, cable, IPTV, satellite. This year, it's 87%. So it's not driving people to cut the cord, actually. I think that what we're going to be seeing is people being maybe more prudent with their money. And we're going to see more content flowing digitally to the other platforms because, as you were saying also, all the studios are kind of bringing back their rights. And I think we're going to see mammoth VOD offerings from distributors, from Sony, from other big studios, Universal, AMC, and so on and so forth. The big test for Netflix is going to be when they launch 4K. Because in my youth, I was a cable operator. So I'm very curious what's going to happen when either in LA or New York, 500,000 people will order a stream of a 4K movie on Netflix. And what's going to happen to the
I'd also be interested
plan.
to know how many of those people who are still, subscribing through the actual cord are doing so through Xbox or Sony or one of the devices that's still connected through internet or connected through Fios or something along those lines, versus like actually paying for Time Warner cable. Do you have any indicator on that?
Well, I mean, most of the households, because of the bundling of internet, VoIP, etc., are subscribing because of the bundle also. Because if you cut one service, suddenly the cost of your internet will go up 30–35%. So the bundling strategies of the operator is doing well, but also Netflix is not attacking the key content that the cable operators have to offer, mainly live sports.
Yeah, of course. When ESPN goes OTT, it's all over.
And I kind of agree with you. I think Netflix was a disruption. Now Netflix is yet another broadcaster in its own way. But I think the model they introduced is influencing all the broadcasters. And they're taking notice of it, and they're trying to see, okay, what do we do now?
Okay, is that it?
Other questions?
No? Okay.
Since we're on Netflix, I was interested in Jocelyn's answer saying that basically, like cable operators aren't responding in the right way to Netflix, and I mean, I would guess that the rationale there is that if somebody's going to eat into my business, and I'd rather it would be me, right? And I guess I would just push you a bit more on that and asking what would be the right answer then, and I would be interested in your answers as well.
I've been thinking a lot about this lately in terms of the smart TV apps and the way that the cable operators are already unbundling. They're not unbundling in the sense that they're still asking you to authenticate your cable in order to access the Smithsonian app on Apple TV or Roku or wherever it is. However, they are unbundling in user behavior, and so they're reinforcing that. So I think what would be a stronger approach for them is to reinforce bundling in people's minds. So instead of it being breaking apart, you know, all of Script's content into a DIY app and a HGTV app and a whatever app, keeping everything under a Scripts or under a, you know, cable provider hub, and then having that be a smart TV digital MSO. Keep your bundle alive and keep people packaging, or maybe create survivor alliances where it's like ESPN is one, and then you're going to package that up with something else, and keep them paying $30 instead of unbundling in practice, and then eventually everybody's going to want it a la carte, not going to authenticate through their cable. So then you're going to have to price point for the internet, which means $3, $5. So there you go. You just got Smithsonian app for $3, and you didn't have to pay for anything else.
And I'll make another point. I'll take a step back, and I would say, look, the future is for the shared economy. For instance, Airbnb is out there. Hotels will need to increase their quality, their customer service. Uber is there. There's going to be some sort of cab sharing programs. You know what I mean? I'm just looking at the very basic services. Maybe there's a solution of that sort for television. Maybe Netflix and broadcasters and cable operators need to get together and think about how they can collaborate and make money together. Perhaps.
Good food for thought for next time. I'll have to wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone, for coming along today. Thank you to all our panelists. You've been great. You can catch up with all of our live coverage on mipblog.com, and you can follow us all year round. We've published everything pretty much that's happened here on the blog that you can have a look at when you get back home. There is another disruption I wanted to talk about in case it concerns any of you, and that's the buses to the airports. There is a bit of a strike on, so please allow extra time to get to the airport today if you are taking the bus. But there are more taxis, and there's taxi sharing going on, so we hope you can all get back home safely with minimal hassle. Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you.